In a world where 12.9% of the human population is starving, I pioneered a campaign to feed an entire city during the most stressful time of the year. Growing food prices generate more starvation in the poverty level, and this is caused by large population growth in Pierce County. Things like this can be rectified by acts of compassion while also stimulating economic growth in retail. I'm going to be talking about how hunger bags are the perfect solution to increase social connectivity, lower the poverty level, and generate economic growth in the retail industry. Moving on to my first point, I will be talking about the growing food expenses and the impact that has on low-income families. Prices are rising across the board, and this is due to higher level of transports driving around the country. As stated by Amadio from The Balance, high oil prices are raising shipping costs. Since shipping costs are going up, companies are increasing the value of their goods, and poor or low-income families aren't able to keep up with the changes and can't afford to survive or can't afford to survive the way they want to. Additionally, Stebbins from USA Today goes on to say that in the short run, supply and demand of food is subject to weather, disease outbreak, and changing of consumer goods or preferences. Since the coronavirus is a real and present thing happening in our country, no one is really considering the impact that the virus has on low-income families, and panicked shoppers are buying up all the goods available, and as a result, low-income families aren't able to afford what's left on the shelves, or they won't be able to buy anything that remains because the panicked shoppers have taken it all. Moving on to further expand on the impact this has on poor families, 12.2% of the population from whom poverty status is determined in Pierce County, it attributes to 101,000 out of 829,000 people below the poverty line. This means that an eighth of Pierce County lives below the poverty line, and an eighth of Pierce County is currently being crippled by the spread of the coronavirus and the massive amount of goods that aren't on the shelves that they need to purchase to survive. Furthermore, PRB comes to say that although some farmers and food producers are benefiting from greater profits, the net effect of higher prices is a raise in the number of poor. Since the coronavirus is increasing the price of goods that are selling like crazy, low-income families aren't able to purchase those said goods if they're even available, and eventually the amount of poor in our country will increase astronomically as more and more people can't afford to buy groceries. Moving on to my next point, I have a rhetorical question for all the audience which states, have any of you ever heard of anyone you know complain about growing rent or mortgage prices reaching astronomically large levels? This is attributed to the exponential increase in population in Pierce County. A quote from Driscoll from the Tacoma News Tribune goes on to say that from April 2016 to April 2017, the population of the Seattle, Tacoma, Bellevue area grew by more than 64,000 people. This comes to say that the massive population growth is drawing the eyes of large companies, and they're increasing their prices to boost their profits and aren't paying much attention to poor families in the area. If you take a look at the chart I provided, the original age group that dominated the area was the elderly population, but they've been dwarfed by the ages between 18 to 35 and the kids those people brought along with them or that they are having now. So large companies are shifting their target audience from the elderly population into the younger population, which can't necessarily afford the goods that are being presented to them but still desire them anyway, which shows a lack of empathy for the older people as well as a lack of empathy to the impoverished people. In regards to rising populations and food consumption, Stebbins also goes on to state that the appetite for more expensive food in an increasingly affluent population drives up overall demand. Since lower developed countries are starting to get more grocery stores and more name brands set into their motion, major companies are spending more money to send those goods across the oceans or across the world, and as a result, prices are going up here in America where those goods are produced. This has a negative effect on low-income families, and they have no ability to control why the food's going up and are being punished essentially as a result. Furthermore, Elferick says that food demand is expected to increase anywhere between 59% to 98% by 2050. This will shape the markets in a way we have never seen before. The lower income families aren't currently able to keep up with the massive shift in markets today, and who knows how they'll be impacted in 20 years from now when the prices of goods are going to be through the roof and no one will be able to afford anything. Moving on to my next point, which talks about community service and the impacts my community service had on a local community. The Safeway in Oregon, Washington, which I was employed at, sold 1,589 hunger bags between Thanksgiving and Christmas of April, from beginning of Christmas and Thanksgiving for 2019. Out of all those bags, one bag is able to feed a family of 4 to 5 for dinner. Since we sold 1,589 bags, that means that 1,589 families had dinner for one night between Thanksgiving and Christmas for 2019. Out of all those bags, I sold 478. This means I sold nearly a third of the bags that fed a third of the families in Orden, Washington. When I interviewed the store director following the hunger bag event, I asked her 2 questions. The first one was, does selling hunger bags inspire unity and pride in a town like Orden? Her answer was yes, it brings everyone closer together. Since the small town of Orden was able to be brought closer together by the hunger bag event, it stands to reason that more communities across the nation would also benefit and grow together as a community and as a group of people wanting to lower the income level and increase the economic growth of the region. Furthermore, I asked her, how often do customers report back in surveys or even as commentary about the hunger bag event? She responded with frequently and positively. This comes to show that people are accepting of the hunger bag event and are willing to spend their own money to help out their neighbors, as well as boosting economic growth in a local community. To conclude, 12.3% of Pierce County lives in poverty. Can you imagine your best friend starving every night? Growing food prices in Pierce County can be attributed to population growth, which requires unique solutions like hunger bags to promote economic stability while also feeding impoverished families. The next time you have a chance to spend a small amount of money to donate food, don't hesitate to feed a family. You could be feeding your own neighbor. 12.9% of the human population is starving. Together, through the power of compassion and goodwill, we can bring that number closer to 0% than we ever had before.